Hello and welcome to the World on Fire. I am Dr. B. Remy Cross of Silver Tree Consultancy. Um, it's been a while. Welcome back. And I think a lot of you are probably, like most people I know, wondering what comes next. You've probably seen the swearing in of the newest president. Donald J. Trump is now our 47th president, in addition to the 45th. And I have been hearing from a lot of people since his election and now inauguration on Monday who want to do something, who want to get involved beyond liking posts and making donations. So I want to talk a little bit today about how you can get involved and the process that is likely to bring you the most satisfaction and fulfillment from doing that. Now, those of you who know me personally know that I am not going to condemn more extreme forms of activism. In fact, I think that contentious behavior, even and sometimes especially when it is illegal, is more effective than peaceful protest. I'm more than happy to get into that if anyone wants to challenge me on that. We can have a debate, drop it in the comments, and I will respond. But the advice today is blanket sort of good advice for anybody anywhere looking to get involved in protest or social change activity. So, first steps: don't rush out. Don't, start attending meetings. I want you to sit and think about a few things. First and foremost, your limits. What are you willing to do and not willing to do in pursuit of the goal that you have set for yourself? What are you willing to do to change the world? Think about what are the consequences if you get wrapped up in higher risk activism. Do you have a job? Do you have a family? Do you have people who depend on you? And think about how that might play into any potential activity that you decide to engage in. The second thing I would advise is to figure out what causes need assistance and which of those you are passionate about. And ancillary to this is also what kind of change are you hoping to affect? If you are passionate about immigration, what is it you want to see? Do you want to see reform? Do you want to see an end to raids? These are very different things that have very different modalities around the types of protests that occurs with them. Think about what change you're hoping to affect and find groups then that work in that lane. And finally, what can you bring to a group or organization? And let me be clear here. For the vast majority of social movement and protest organizations, having people who show up on the regular, who are dependable, is probably the most important thing you can contribute. But there are also skills that some of us have that might be useful. Do you have a passion for graphic design, right? Do you have medical training? Do you have legal training? Do you understand how to set up things like databases? These are all skills. It may not sound like it in the outset, but these are all skills that become very useful for a number of activist organizations. So after you've sort of sat with yourself and thought about these, look for organizations and people who align well with your interests. If you can't find any, consider reaching out to friends who you know might share your beliefs and your interest in doing something about it, and talk to them about getting something going, about doing things that you feel are going to help make that difference. So, tips for people who want to get involved. And these are just some concrete things to keep in mind and think about as you move forward on this journey. First and foremost, don't get arrested, right? There's no prestige in this. If you're arrested, you have in some ways given them what they want. And there is going to be a lot of arrests probably in the next few months. One of the things we know about ascendant authoritarians is that they often will engage in deliberately provocative activities in the hopes of getting dissidents and activists to come out, protest cross a line so they can be arrested en masse. Don't fall for that. This is why it's important for you to think about how and why you want to do things before getting into a situation where you're asked to make a snap judgment on that. Second, don't talk to cops. If you ask a police officer, if you ask a lawyer, what is the one thing to do if a police officer comes up and starts talking to you is don't talk to them. Don't give them any tips. Don't give them any information. Don't share the names of any of your colleagues. Understand that trust takes time. For a lot of organizations, if you come in too hot, they're going to be suspicious of you. And conversely, if you meet people who are hot to trot and really want to get involved in higher risk stuff, those are often warning signs. They're either immature activists or they are people who are trying to entrap you into doing things that could get you in a lot of trouble. If you are considering doing face-to-face activism, and it doesn't matter whether it's high risk, low risk, if you're showing up at demonstrations, generally you want to keep a lower profile online. A lot of counter-protesters, and I believe we're probably going to start to see the regime itself, often are collating the information trail you leave online with any photos or evidence they can draw from in-person events. So the smaller your footprint on these things, the harder it will be for any attempts to crack down on you or your organization. If you are protesting in person, try to keep yourself as anonymous as possible. So what this means is bulky clothing, head coverings, eye coverings, if your jurisdiction allows it, mouth coverings and masks. Do be aware that during the pandemic and as part of the reaction to Black Lives Matter, some places passed anti-masking laws. These don't tend to be enforced on the day-to-day, but they could be used against activists as an additional charge to either pressure them or as a punishment. So be aware of what is and is not allowed. Ancillary to this, if you are somebody who typically carries a weapon with you, you are going to an event where that weapon should not be necessary, do not bring it. You do not want to get caught with a weapon. You can get additional charges that way. Know your limits, right? Don't cross them in the moment of passion. This is why I asked people to sort of sit and think. Think about what you are and are not willing to do. And if you feel like in the moment you want to cross those lines, take a step back and think about it, right? Once it's rung, those bells sometimes cannot be unrung. I skipped one here, so to backtrack for a second. If you are organizing, do it face-to-face or over encrypted comms. Facebook, Twitter, even Blue Sky are not your friends. These platforms are in the hands of people who likely do not support your agenda, who have proven themselves again and again more than willing to appease autocratic regimes. And I don't mean here. Look at the history of these social media platforms overseas and other places where there are authoritarian regimes. They will absolutely turn you over if you are engaging in behavior that they detect as suspicious. You want to find a good encrypted way of communicating. I know a lot of people like Telegram. If you've got other suggestions, drop them below. And find co-activists that you trust. These are people who you know who are solid, who you've got a relationship with, not just somebody who you only see at the weekly meetings, but who really has a killer idea for sticking it to ICE, right? Don't trust that person, right? Not until you know them better. Finally, if you are thinking about engaging in higher risk activity, make sure you have a lawyer, somebody who can help you if you get arrested or asked to come in for questioning. If you don't know where to find a lawyer who works with activists, the National Lawyers Guild has an excellent track record of working with activists at protests and in other situations. Keep your personal circle close and tight. Don't talk about activism stuff with people who are not activists. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who might turn you up. I know this sounds super duper paranoid, but so far, everyone who watches these things, I'd like to think is a friend, and I don't want to see any of you get arrested or harassed. And finally, if you are going to things in person, make sure you've got a backup plan for if things get hot. How are you going to get out? Remember, and I'm more than happy to do another video and talk about some of the protest tactics that police use, but one of the common ones is kettling, which seeks to try to trap activists and push them into a tighter and tighter space. You do not want to be in the middle of a kettle. Trust me on this one. So, hopefully this provided you with a little bit of concrete sort of information you can use. I know I've talked to a few people who are like, can you give me the names of organizations? No, because it really depends on where you are, what you are wanting to do, and your level of comfort. Talk to people nearby, people who know you. You can, if you know me, you can ask me, and I'm more than happy to have that conversation over encrypted comms about this. But don't fixate on an organization. Fixate on the cause and what you are and are not willing to do. This has been B.R. Cross with Silver Tree Consultants, and hopefully you found this useful. And if you did, give me a like or a subscribe, and I will talk to you. Be safe out there, friends.